Cobralingus engine scenario with these new settings. Nope. Start inlet, explode. And then, yeah, I think
It uses the metamorphication process to apply the techniques of electronic dance music to the production of words, dissolving language to mutated liquid state manipulated into new forms, borrowed, sampled, transformed. The device takes in the text as a starting point, which is then processed to create another text entirely, known as the outlet. This outlet is the ghost, or the unconscious desire, haunting the original text. The Cobralingus engine makes use of the metamorphication process, imagines text to be a signal passed through various filter gates, each of which has a specific effect upon the language. Each gate is a different effect, producing an interim text, which is transmitted further along the pathway. The words can undergo many changes until, finally, the outlet text is created. Cobralingus will create new filters to store in world info. Filter gates. Start denotes that the Cobralingus device has been activated. Inlet. The startup text. The initial signal on which the device will act. Control. Brings the text down to earth, forces language to behave itself. Decay gently breaks down the text, dissipates, introduces corruption to the signal. Go injects artificial stimulant into the language. Type of drug will always be specified. Enhance creates elements of beauty. Explode breaks up signal into highly disordered fragments, to be used with caution. Find story. Forces text into the nearest possible narrative, however nonsensical. Ghost edit. Kills the text. Calls up a ghost to haunt the language. X. Combines all elements into a single entity. Overload drastically increases image density of text, to be used with caution. Play game, mischief maker, encourages craziness. Results may surprise the user. Purify, loses deadwood, selects images or phrases from the text. Randomize, disorders text. Parts of text may be lost or changed. Outlet, the final result of the filtering process. Say, denotes that the Cobralingus device has been deactivated. Stop denotes that the Cobralingus device has been shut down. World info. This is a list of filters that are available for use in the Cobralingus engine. Start. Inlet, the woman came up to me and said, "I'd like to poison your mind." Explode drug. The drug made my head feel heavy, but it was a nice way to have. The feeling was like a blanket on my shoulders. Find story. Drug guy found a story about the people who used to live here, and they were all happy and healthy, but then they were killed by a terrible plague, and now the city is just ruins. What? What did you say? You heard me. I said nothing. That's not true. You said you'll be fine. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. Did not. Did so. What were you talking about? I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Of course it matters. It's important that we talk about it. What was it? You'll be fine. What's wrong with that? You said it. I'm fine. I didn't mean it. Well, you did say it. I meant to say, don't worry, you'll be fine. But then I got confused and said something else. I can't remember what it was. Well, it doesn't matter. Why not? What did you say? I didn't say anything. You did. I didn't say anything. Yes, you did. Did not. Did too. Did not. Did so. I said nothing. You said don't worry. I said that. I can't remember. What did I say? You said don't worry, you'll be fine. No, I didn't. Yes, you did.
Oh my god.
No, I didn't.
Now this is perfect time to filter it again.
The K Find story. Outlet, I don't know if this is true, but I think the people who lived here used to be happy and healthy. Then they got sick and died. Now their city is just a big pile of rubble. It's sad, but that's just the way things are. Why are you crying? I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. You are too. Why are you crying? I can't stop. Well, stop it then. Why are you crying? Because you said I'd be fine. You said you'll be fine. And I'm not. I'm not fine at all. Well, that's just how things go. Sometimes you're fine and sometimes you're not. But you'll be fine. But I won't be. You will be.
Let's kick this up to the high randomness. High as randomness.
I won't. You will. Why are you crying? Because I'm not fine. And you said I would be. But you lied to me. I didn't lie to you. I didn't say anything about that. Yes, you did. No, I
Rest
didn't.
away from gaslighting us.
Yes, you did. What did you say? I said you'll be fine. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. You just made that up. Well, if it was me who said it, then it must have been you. That's the only other explanation. So I guess you lied to yourself. I didn't lie to myself. It was you who said that, and I'm not fine at all. Yes, you are. You'll be just fine. I would. Why don't you ever believe me? Because I'm your mother and I know better than that. You'll be just fine. You said the same thing to me before, and it wasn't true then either. Purify makes fine story. Outlet, I think we should get out of here. The air is getting stale, and it's making me sick. We can't leave now. It's almost time. Why not? proselytized pure. Outlet, it was the best day of my life when I married your father. He said he'd take care of me, and I knew that he would. And it still feels like the best day of my life. It's not time yet. I don't care. We should go now. But it isn't time. Yes, it is. I've been listening to the news for weeks. They're always saying how bad things are and what terrible things are going on out there. She turned back to face him as she continued speaking in a voice filled with anger. You think you know everything because you were born here, but the city has changed over the years. It wasn't like that when I was growing up. I'm sure it must have been different then, said her husband gently. He's tried his best to calm her down without getting angry himself. This had happened before. They both knew how dangerous it could get if they let themselves be drawn into an argument at times like these. No, you don't understand. We can leave now and we'll still make it home before curfew. He sighed inwardly, wishing that she wouldn't push him so hard on this subject all the time. Look, he said in a low voice, it's not going to happen today or tomorrow or next week or any day soon either, okay? But one of these days, when things settle down a bit more, then maybe we will go somewhere else. Shrugged eyes for all outlet. It was nice having such a good father-in-law. Why can't you just say yes for once? Because I'm trying to do what's best for us. He sighed again and shook his head slightly. It wasn't fair how she kept pushing him away all the time. Why couldn't they be together as man and wife any more? She was right, though. Things had changed since he'd been born here, but it seemed like everyone else didn't even care about it any longer. Everyone around them hated one another now except themselves. And lately those people who weren't exactly their enemies were either becoming strange in other ways too, or some of them simply disappeared from sight completely without saying goodbye first. What had happened to his father? Where could he be when they needed him most? He remembered, well, what a terrible mistake it was that his mother married this particular man. Somehow the feeling that it might not have been so bad if she hadn't filled his mind with her ideas as soon as they started living together years ago. A litany of the terrible ideas are then listed for the reader. Play game, no injury. Fine, said his wife angrily, we'll stay here. Then she turned and went back into their bedroom without even looking at him again. If there was something wrong with going outside today, and he knew how badly she wanted to go out there and help all those poor people who were starving because they didn't know any better than to live like savages in the wilderness somewhere away from where civilization existed. If that was a sin on her part, then it also made him guilty as well. Then maybe later would be time. The above represents the terrible idea. The others are lesser than us. It is associated with cylindrical history space projection number 26, the present, and can be found by asking the Cobralingus engine about its nature via World Info. You may see different options for answer depending upon what data your device has already filtered or purified within this area of space/time. With respect to history, here is a story that exemplifies why this concept should not be propagated within certain areas of human experience, and offers insight into how this might come about given what we know regarding biological evolution on other planets. There once was a man named Horatio who lived in a country far away called Italy, but now long since lost his memory, possibly as a result of disease or old age, even though he did retain one very important fact. He remembered where the food was stored at night during hard times when no rain came from above to supply them with water for drinking or cooking. The yearning caused him to plan his life around searching every house in town whenever there were only a few coins left until all had been exhausted, thus saving up enough money to purchase more goods they desperately needed, then perhaps purchasing some good luck that would surely reunify the nation. But never was anything stolen, and always if someone asked why he hadn't found any more of what he'd gone out looking for, why none seemed to have come in since last night. It became easy as pat, and he felt relieved, safe inside himself when answering this way. There, over there, pointing down an empty street to a vacant lot where no one walked at such times as those just mentioned above. Perhaps everyone knew about him because of these stories too, so they weren't afraid. Terrible idea #2. The others are animals too. An early example occurs during the mid-1700s with the Dutch colonization of Indonesia. Then after 3 long years, all except Horatio had died, what remained were 4 miserable, starving wretches who made their living by scrounging up garbage and rotten things in order to eat, while he stayed strong alone doing nothing but looking for food in old buildings, not even speaking if anyone should come along to see what was causing the loud clackety sound as something heavy landed on the floor. And another heavy thing, and another. The 4 might have co-hallucinated the great wooden clockwork beast, might have heard them growling together among themselves in an ancient basement, wet rattlesnake skin hanging down from where they torn it off again after letting out a sharp hissing scream that sounded like Ron, then making quiet talk with each other for quite a while afterwards, about how good things could be, at least temporarily, before settling back into silence. At least Horatio kept company with the thoughts of someone else every day, and thus didn't notice such things as clocks moving past him as time passed without any concern. Perhaps this had helped protect him. And so on until one fine morning he decided to head south in search of work for himself during rainy season, and it wasn't long after he'd left that others joined them inside houses behind their locked doors. First an old woman named Amy who brought a small child with her just because she felt a need to travel light, not even telling anyone what might have happened. These sorts were very stubborn. Then 3 women living alone by themselves in a shack whom nobody would associate with. They were just weird, was the common outcry when pressed for an answer. In fact, all these people didn't know about each other until Horatio announced himself years later. Each thought they owned themselves completely independently. It must have been hard going getting used to having someone else there, touching your things and asking you if you wanted anything, like that poor fool who lived next door, trying to find work, standing behind somebody waiting his or her turn while some woman outside is saying nasty words about everyone as though we're not already sick enough inside ourselves already. Saying things without looking at whom it may be hurting, which could last for days, months, or even years. Stealing things because nobody's ever done a good thing for us, so maybe this will finally give them something worthwhile they can steal away from their victims too. And now when no one speaks anymore after each terrible thought. Then perhaps in the dark of night you stand in front of another person who can't move but says nothing either during hours long conversations over and over again to that old wooden clockwork beast somewhere just out of sight. Overloads of your outlets sometimes. I wonder if there isn't a limit on what we have room to think inside our skulls. My husband certainly doesn't seem able to learn anymore. And thus these four women with no place in history whatsoever spent most of their lives living together within one house or building under Horatio's tutelage. Now Horatio didn't realize it himself at first, but as time went by he became so sure they were animals, lacking many of the animal functions people seem to want without asking about first, because how could any rational being do such things all day long? Anya, why is your face scratched up like this? He asked while Anya looked away quickly, her mouth forming a thin straight line for some reason, which meant she wouldn't speak anymore ever again until everyone else had gone to sleep except him. The young mother picked up and handed over an old small mirror after speaking sharply 2 or 3 times from behind the other side of a locked door, saying nothing at all yet, with anger still showing in her eyes, then returned with more milk when it was finished being used.
Oh, sorry. Oh, that's okay. I see. Hmm.
Instead of water, because her child wanted something else, but what that might be made no difference unless one planned on adding money as well later in order to purchase even more than that, although nobody did, not out loud. Also sometimes asking for things like extra clothing for winter months, since now she would have only these few items left before spring. After handing everything over, there were questions. How does your chest feel? What do you need besides milk every day? Are those bruises from somebody hurting you too badly last night? Asking all these annoying things, taking them into his own mind along with some information he'd found within the history books about how such terrible things must be happening everywhere. Horatio eventually became very sick when answering at first instead of following proper social cues. So another person tried to teach him more subtle ways of questioning people by saying words to them, or maybe patting their shoulder a certain number of times while smiling once in a while during one-sided conversations, as though they had always been friends, except they hadn't really until after this. That didn't work either. A bad smell suddenly showed up, which caused him to have an immediate attack and start throwing up loudly again later on, many days in succession, once upon waking late at night due to shouting just outside his locked door. Aunt Maria, the old woman named Amy, who spoke like a corn when angry, yelled from behind the closed wooden door. "Can't you hear anything? That poor man's trying to sleep." But her words could never be heard except inside herself. Not by any person present during these instances. These four people talked more than anybody Horatio ever met before. They knew what other people were thinking, although there wasn't much communication between them in terms of conversation yet, because all talk had turned into single word exchanges only, meaning names for themselves, but nothing else about anyone or anything. Just like how I make sure everyone knows where the food is hidden under this floor if ever times become very hard. Indeed, so we don't starve since starvation doesn't discriminate among persons here at the bottom of things, even though it really hurts, especially when being treated roughly from time to time. Also telling myself and others that these sorts should not be allowed anywhere near positions of authority over people, otherwise speaking against them out loud might help keep our species a little healthier each day during hard times. Before long, one of the women he named Vanna gave birth in front of him, and saying some words quietly every once in a while after that, because now she knew he would be eating the newborn infant's placenta on Tuesdays, using part of their money for buying this additional item whenever necessary, which was different than money. Amount like pounds or ounces, unless they decided to split it up with those other three who had no babies at all yet, even though the child was going to eat soon enough and begin doing these sorts of things itself as well, as long as there were still pieces left when eaten. The sight wasn't so bad after a while, especially when food became harder and harder to find, but why not make use of what little food was available anyway? This fusing would somehow create life inside something else, although just one human cell looked pretty small already. And perhaps if a baby ever ate its placenta, that meant another person could eventually get pregnant from it. Who knows for sure until later? What are we? Animals, tools, toys. Horatio thought over and over again every time someone came near his locked door out of nowhere too. "Look at these bruises on my chest," he'd say out loud whenever Annie complained about her child doing something to herself. "Are you trying to tell me those aren't signs of abuse?" She usually fell silent then. Only words such as anger showed themselves in the lines around her mouth, though, because she wouldn't talk any more after that either. Someone tried many times with her, although by now almost everyone knew about Vanna's situation, especially since sometimes crying babies suddenly disappeared while older ones grew up, but somehow didn't live long enough for it to be noticeable anyway, meaning they stopped breathing from somewhere within their bodies. 1 or 2 days went by very fast during hard times, while staring into the face of another person who asked why there were no people anymore outside this house. Meaning, did a cat eat them all? Did rats gnaw off their legs when nobody was home? No one knows how we really ended up like this, but everything Horatio experienced during those years definitely made him question human history ever again. For example, what was life supposed to have been like before birth in some distant land thousands of miles away across oceans, where time could just stop on any given day, so you couldn't tell if anything happened at all except perhaps once or twice per year? A small war going on for over 10,000 days that ended with less than 7 survivors. Every single time unless one died without warning as well, while taking a few days here and there not knowing who attacked first exactly because clocks can sometimes fail from something called malfunctioning, although why anyone would do such a thing is beyond us since it might also happen inside the heads of other people, causing many wars or no wars whatsoever. What sort of sounds filled a windy night along the seashore somewhere so that children became afraid and fled into their homes seeking refuge after listening to the screeching noises which kept rising in volume until everyone fell asleep right next to each other for whatever reason. All these things bothered Horatio when he later used them to prove how logical most people were, even though they considered themselves sane all the time, but nevertheless thought some small part of them must be sick now if this was really happening every single day for centuries, since nobody seemed aware of anything wrong except, say, forgetting certain names about different women because not everybody got along well together, sometimes throwing stones at another person's house thinking they'd get back something which looked like water, then find out afterwards that what actually came from inside their own house through a hidden hole had turned into some liquid almost as hard as rock unless you poured it directly into one's mouth. Or worse still, the most unbelievable thing about this laboratory being constructed behind those closed doors, though mostly by Horatio, who discovered where such items might be purchased without any money, was when these same women discovered that more than 24 hours went by during every single day, each time continuing right on in the future even after a new period of rest had ended only because nobody realized anything. Makes rendering food stays fluid until ready to be eaten by a child, slash in order for people with few or no words able to manage life. They should at least understand this. But are these folks capable of having such thoughts as well? Does their brain even have room anymore? Don't tell me how long the time goes on because it is none of our business. I was able to save myself from disappearance somehow till now. Soon almost will get crippled, which removes a little bit of excitement, if not anything else out there, and just get in the way more often. Also, please watch out for each other in your speech. What you want may differently than what you'd have said come true to us after we end up dying with no one. Here that can make you sure again. Horatio was a scientist, a scientific experiment that he wanted to end, but not before having tried out certain theories regarding what might happen after birth, mostly of this planet called Earth. Things like going outside, where people with no mouths existed so they could shout or growl at other creatures living within trees and inside holes in the ground which somehow came from thin air above because humans would be afraid unless learning something first, most probably knowing there were only a few days left until each person died by now while fearing that whatever killed them just then had also consumed their offspring. Even though consumed didn't sound good, fear showed up for both child and parents, since eating everything could possibly be very unpleasant, although a new species would always appear afterwards, maybe one day becoming extinct permanently due to our mistakes over time. But without anyone remembering these times, nobody could do anything about it once present memories reached such a stage. Speaking aloud might help a bit, although probably not all of us can hear well enough any longer. And I don't suppose everyone is stupid in the first place, because this planet contains many things like large fish and trees growing near lakes, sometimes with fruits on them too, since when that we eventually found out exist, if only by accident at first, except thinking nothing of their existence whatsoever, or even discovering that there was life under the ground as well where air exists for quite some distance down from sea level. It didn't matter to Horatio anymore what anyone else thought. They couldn't kill him so easily, no matter how badly they wanted to, which brought other questions to mind asking myself and others among yourselves. How long can you live without food? How long can you walk around in space looking over distant planets, wondering about alien languages, civilizations, and animals all living below people's feet and inside vast cities while eating themselves whenever it gets close enough? Soon everyone who worked on the experiment had a different opinion whether this idea of bringing small children into adulthood only by giving them an amount of money later was something they wanted at all, since there would be 4 or 5 adults wanting certain amounts of whatever during each day, simply because such persons kept walking around making noise until drugs saturated in 150 mg point tables each. Slash in order to know when drugs will be readily available, I must separate itself from its other parts as soon as possible and render them inside me that have not yet arrived. Say a prayer if you want any of these exceptions on the label's end, or even that maybe I would never leave this house for fear of losing my pass. Again, while keeping the fact always at hand about what was going on with everyone out there and without disturbance regarding our life here afterwards. Understand, we all taste something, but somebody has to put it in its mouth first. Just don't do it. Trust me on this. Horatio, the man who was born inside this house one day into a new century, then experienced too many things from here on out because he knew nothing about it.
Hmm.
Such things before, unlike children throwing rocks at each other's houses, or others taking some kind of drugs to end up falling asleep for 12 hours plus during every single night that continued going right along in time, regardless of how people felt once waking up next morning while speaking words so fast and incomprehensible due to forgetting everything important, like where they were supposed to be right after becoming alive among human beings, especially since these small animals also disappeared off onto another continent instead. over and over again, maybe because you get bored hearing them talking forever just before finally saying something when there isn't enough food available. Although I thought someone was chasing him through space only for realizing it meant he didn't want me inside his house ever again. It can happen that easily after living with this person a few days, especially if someone is lucky. But the worst thing of all would have been when my hair fell out at last, for not even having known anything about such things as doing away with an entire species without getting noticed by anyone. What will humans do to me next time, but become less noticeable until vanishing from here completely? Enhanced turning off this till due to cruelty / she had a great life until now. We are also destined for some millionth time, and the fact that anyone was born into us at all is something each person needs to remember in order to let go once completely. All sorts of animals are easy to distinguish, including trees that can walk on two legs so we may use them, or whatever, like big fish. There's also could eat us all up right now if given the opportunity, or even with some little amount of money, which brings other questions. How do you become extinct for something completely different a long time ago, when before this life began only each species lived within its own particular tree? This is one reason why there's been an incredible number of wars since early days of old, since humans just didn't know anything about where they were supposed to be located in their lives. But after working here together for ages, thinking I was living my whole entire life alone, waking up at dawn during every single day from inside Horatio's house, no matter what happened, he took it too seriously while explaining that nobody will get killed if I'm not here. Nobody even exists. The important thing as far as living your life meant remembering words like birth, death, and whatever else until forgetting everything so completely the following day, which showed me that maybe both parent and child might suffer similar consequences should another war happen at such a moment. I once dreamed about giving birth to my son, who would probably live much longer than his parents, and for helping others more by spreading rumors or keeping quiet during moments when children ran away screaming. Sometimes adults seem only interested in hurting each other. Not everyone has hearts, because they must have forgotten what we're really here for, which also makes certain creatures just go around being destructive. But why? What else did the future hold before making it right now, after finally accepting many things, then reevaluating our lives? Nothing except that. Love doesn't kill, although those who don't want anyone to ever hear anything about their existence will definitely try preventing this from happening through different ways, especially using drugs. Drugs such as alcohol, cigarettes, marijuana, and any one of several illegal substances usually causing some kind of harm inside humans, whether done willingly or unwillingly, bringing on great sorrow while getting something for free at the same time instead. The way people could look out upon Earth is different since aliens walked here with no care in mind, believing everybody lived like ants, even if you talked back. Words used when we knew nothing were considered unimportant, so everything was not heard or understood, which showed how special silence might become since human beings already went around talking non-stop like insects, everywhere trying to keep us amused by saying silly things, yet other than certain words, always remembered the moment every person must have begun forgetting it all without warning anyway. But some little thing is left inside my head, especially because I am still thinking about many of these moments. Yes, I should think only for myself. It's a miracle what happens over and over again. Everybody does their best, but also goes out in order to forget they existed by living different lives every day that follow right along as long as you're with them, no matter what problems they have during times when remembering each other gets impossible. This edit creating moving videos, but what happens next? Slash, no matter how long you live, always be watching or aimed at someone just to enjoy this relatively new feeling, which turns out far more intense than we have come to accomplish on our own, with potential problems never known as one of the worst deviations that has ever happened to you. How important is a small fish and why do they show up near shorelines around lakes before disappearing at such time as everything seems like it will never happen again? This can be confusing enough since you don't want to go outside due to possible rain, but animals that look like pigs also leave for longer periods of time, returning without having any intention on ever going back, no matter how long this happened. What then makes so many people believe in ghosts, whether spirits or apparitions watching over them at all times, while some kind of energy exists within bodies which gives life to both plants and humans everywhere? After thinking about this type of thing, a new definition is something impossible now, although not only seen during late night hours where words seem forgotten because a great number of living beings die each year anyway, making their world an unhappy place, yet leaving behind several examples if you're interested throughout history. If someone just made the effort looking into matters deeper as far as science was concerned. When I try to remember what used to make me laugh out loud earlier, dozens upon dozens of items must have appeared, showing themselves more than anything else from these words on my list. So can one even believe there are creatures hiding inside walls while appearing sometimes at dusk when speaking strange languages? That such a huge amount could be learned right now, because reading a lot and staying busy in order for nothing bothering you seems extremely important after becoming completely insane as described by others. People everywhere who don't realize the real problem of this whole business are usually afraid that they will die during an alien attack, since I heard quite often every day for years on end voices saying many things while sitting next to someone, whispering everything coming up soon, using numerous other kinds of words having nothing to do with school or science. Everything happens for some reason until another time. That's why people have dreams, even if it gets impossible to know where each one is without mentioning all those details, like remembering somebody talking about a new word we were told before any thought being involved in what we actually wanted, but would forget as soon as possible. After stopping speaking suddenly once, knowing something had just happened moments later, as when Horatio shouted, "No." Out loud, then vanished behind the trees again. I moved across the yard, still getting tired after making everyone go back home, which did seem really long ago. Never having found anyone who seemed happy leaving so far away from everything. But these small animals here always forgot how important anything can happen, no matter whether inside houses or on this side of a lake at sunset. Yet someone believes in ghosts due to such memories only returning within my mind's eye, sometimes trying telling other people that life continues. Things are going around and around like days spinning by without stopping, since human beings probably believe their bodies will keep changing until death eventually arrived for everyone. And some persons even know how much they don't need others, just learning exactly what seems right up from thinking every little thing might end if another attack happens during midnight hours. Horatio was usually excited over new words used each day, as far as knowing how different a word could mean something else, and has called many other names throughout time. I think certain languages must have appeared. Anyway, the ability to communicate with anything whenever living next door speaking varied. Loud before moving further away while carrying on conversations, because everybody talked louder than anybody listening due to our voices echoing off of buildings or hiding among trees, instead waiting patiently at any moment. Still laughing out loud that I barely remember thinking about Horatio telling me stories around his house more than once, saying my wife should be back in 30 minutes, until vanishing into the night, again mentioning how important it would get someday after suddenly needing someone new. That's what really matters. Explode disassembling chaos until light comes flaring from birds, scream slash. Nobody asking for trouble. State seems impossible, so many of us do everything to shut each other out, then speak into voices fading away alone before what happens next is difficult to understand. Not only would all things go against this planet, which I'd love to make a fair out of material problems, in the meantime taking part on lonely roads travelled by lots of people, even drowning here as well, just for old time's sake. Or mysteries remained unrevealed. Each year Horatio became more and more tired after staying awake most of the day, so I got very concerned while wondering when he would sleep, considering this might have been important. He once told me a story about something we should watch on television until leaving the room, because other people didn't exist or hardly existed any longer, mostly living inside buildings in order for someone to help him or her become alone, which brought memories back where Horatio began explaining how his life used to be years ago, as well saying words that could not explain things we were making everything else just seem wrong to happen every day, except being lonely does show itself occasionally, especially with family members walking into rooms late at night, trying waking everyone up yet going outside first, only speaking later during quiet hours after asking for nothing. Goodbye. Horatio laughed out loud today, although he must have been tired remembering such thoughts, since some human beings made a lot of money showing themselves dead all over again, mentioning why each person continues playing games from time to time, unless thinking it will never happen anymore, only adding anything could end tomorrow, no matter how much money can be earned from past, which did also make certain living things stay alive now listening to. using new names or moving places, speaking less than anyone else, therefore forcing me into looking away, seeing people shouting their heads off due to laughing too loudly before. Continuing telling many other stories throughout time, including moments when you and I might disappear along with others in order for a short period of time, leaving everyone needing something at another time while experiencing enough different ideas to know one has actually been gone. Hey! An old woman's voice rang out where someone had found Horatio by accident, only guessing his whereabouts considering he used to tell about an open fire on this side of the lake and went swimming during sunlight hours several times after coming home late most of the day since getting very tired thinking so. Outlet having power disconnected in the roadway slash when everything comes down to a nuisance shaped like money with each other not only sticking out but looking so important under certain circumstances, waking people up all over again. Oh, knowledge is what you have while knowing what hasn't been told already. Horatio showed himself just wearing shorts because going out of his mind. All I did was speak, then heard a strange sound showing an open fire was burning again right beside the old house without lights being turned on, therefore needing something in order to warn others, soon making each one notice someone once coming home late every single day. If that didn't happen, what would we have? It happened 3 years ago, for instance, leaving no money, meaning whatever is learned and not experienced needs recalling at least once. Learning this seems necessary today, otherwise nothing happens since time flies while ignoring such problems even. After realizing tomorrow may be similar, yet some persons believing everyone has free will at times, even using people as objects, thinking it's their way of paying them back. After running around doing many things, I got very tired seeing how bad humans had become, along with knowing only those words appearing during certain periods seemed extremely important. Reading what can or cannot be said throughout time, if that ever stopped happening here, might find several different stories coming out, so who knew? Or were there are also questions asked when leaving because of things found but nobody answering until waking up for a few days, remembering something could change everything at once and still return the same moment later, no matter how long any person believes in life. Therefore, every human being knows they have free will, despite knowing words really mean something else other than changing reality, like returning to whatever place existed before, discovering all sorts of ideas. Happy holidays. The woman appeared around 12 years old, wearing some type of large plastic hat. I hardly remember since her mother mentioned someone showing off an imaginary friend. Horatio wanted everyone, myself included, listening right away, for I was discussing each one's future, left Dylan much earlier, realizing his girlfriend and wife weren't interested after meeting each one numerous times with other men, but saying anything would end when going home very tired. It wasn't funny, although telling me stories, he then decided on things during my waking period before using everything known by people walking inside buildings, usually where sounds can be heard every day as well. A couple of girls named Cara and Stephanie probably never meant what was said back then, since getting older, seeing them do many different things, speaking too loudly, wanting their time to begin discussing the real reason Horatio quit spending most of his days swimming in front of the old house, especially only wearing shorts, hoping his children would want more information concerning why each human being learns anything, while showing everyone just how little they knew about everything we experience, including certain problems. What made the scene look extremely bizarre here that none of these small animals wanted to move up close, realizing nothing at all happened, yet trying anything backwards in order for someone else to have free will.
And that will be all for today. That will be all for today. And that will be all for today.